Good afternoon. This is CJ Golden, and that's a new introduction. Um, with the clock countdown, that was a surprise to me. It's not the one that I meant to put on, but hey, whatever works works. Welcome to the Caregivers Bakery, a half an hour where we focus on you, on us, the caregivers. We learn, we work together as a community. We come in and you all come in and make your comments, please. And what I'd like you to do when you make a comment in the chat box, would you please put an ampersand next to the name of somebody that you know will gain much from the Caregivers Bakery? That will alert the person that you're interested in letting her know or him that we're here. So, our guest today is Adrienne Gruberg. Adrienne started the Caregiver Space Community. Um, it was a work, a piece of love when she had to become caregiver to her husband Steve. When she and Steve were then caregiver to her mother-in-law, all the time, by the way, caring for Steve while she was running her own advertising agency for well, it was an award-winning graphic design agency, um, boutique advertising agency to the fashion trade. She was doing that. She was caring for Steve, and then she had to stop working when her mother-in-law came into the picture, and she was caring for her as well. I'm going to introduce you to Adrienne. She's going to give you her whole story, and she's in the background smiling now. There she is. Hi, Adrienne.
Hi, CJ.
I'm glad, so glad that you're here.
I'm
Um,
happy to be here.
Adrienne, I will tell you folks, I was in the middle of a move in December. Adrienne's in the middle of a move now she's a dyed in the wool Manhattanite New Yorker, and she's now elsewhere because she left that place. And she's in betwixt and between, but with all of that, she agreed to come on today. So here we go. I'm going to start with a couple of talking points for you,
Sure.
Adrienne, and you take it from there. And prime on my mind is tell us your caregiving story.
Okay. I feel like I'm a natural born caregiver. I started taking care of my grandmother when I was like 8, 10,
Wow.
but um, I stayed with her in the Bronx and then would go to see her in the hospital when I was old enough for them to let me in. I would sit, and she was in an oxygen tent.
Mm.
And at my age, that was very scary. Um, then I took care of my father when he had bleeding ulcers, and I was in from college, and it fell on me because my mother worked. And all along, whenever I was needed, I was there. But with Steve, he was diagnosed with lung cancer in 2005. And we'd been together 26 years at that point. And I knew that he had cancer before he did because he was unconscious from a procedure that he had when they told me. And I kept it a secret because I didn't want to be the one to tell him. I wanted the doctors to tell him. And I acted surprised. But as soon as you hear it, and as soon as the doctor tells you that it will be fine for a while, but this will kill him, you live with that. That's over your head. Now, the patient might be in denial, but it's with you all the time. And he had several surgeries the first year. he was fine for several years. 2 years after his surgeries and stuff, his mother was diagnosed with lymphoma, and she moved in, and luckily we had the space for her, and she had her own room. But there were the doctor's appointments and the medication and all the weight loss and a new wardrobe. And I mean, I had to keep her life together. And taking the car keys away, that was a big thing.
Oh yeah, that's
She was, even though she was living with us and her car was in a garage in Brooklyn, she was determined to have those car keys. I just did whatever I had to do. I was there, got used to her schedule, and I was basically on a diet of bagels, tuna fish, egg salad, and chocolate chip cookies for 6 years.
Well, let me interrupt, if I might, with a question that comes to me. It's something that we haven't discussed on the Caregiver's Bakery before. You said the patient may be in denial,
Yeah.
but you, the caregiver, live with it all the time. How do you work with the patient? What do you say to the patient? How do you deal with the patient who is in denial?
Well, he was not in denial about the fact that he had cancer.
Okay.
He just wasn't thinking about what was going to happen down the line. So he went on with his life every day, which was very healthy, and I had to encourage that. He was also someone who had a cable TV show for 35 years. He never looked sick. He was always trying to lose weight. So when he started to look a little thinner, he never got skinny. But 1 hour a week, no one knew he was sick when he did that show, and it was like a gift that here he was just a totally healthy person living the life that he was used to living. He always went to work. It was only about 3 weeks before he passed that stopped. So I had to work to keep his life as normal as possible.
Then that worked in the favor for both of you, really, that he was in denial for that fact. But yes, it must have weighed so heavily on you, your being, your psyche, your emotions. And hi, Steve, everything's good.
Well, it wasn't, "Hi, Steve, everything's good," really, because we were, there were always appointments with surgeons to check and have CAT scans and the MRIs and the all of the different tests that you have to go through to see how the cancer is progressing. And once it started to progress again, and then he was not in denial, but we just went ahead and did the things that we had to do,
Well,
the surgeries. And the first surgery, he went into the hospital with peritonitis, and that was when they discovered the cancer in the CAT scan. And he was told, the surgeon told him he was in great shape. The other doctors kept telling him what great shape he was in, and then we went to our internist, who broke the news to him. It's complicated.
yes, of course it is. And
Yes.
forgive me this, and I don't mean it to be flippant, but I remember a movie with Bette Midler. What was the name?
No, I didn't say what the name
Oh,
was.
oh.
One was
And
The Wind Beneath My
where
Wings.
the friend, yes, and the friend, Bette they were at the beach, and the friend's child was playing on on the sand, and Bet and the friend was staying inside, and Bet looked at her and said, "You're still living. Go
Yeah,
live." And that really stuck with me. And that's, you're telling me and telling all of us, that was the position that Steve took. I'm still here.
exactly.
I'm going to continue living my life.
He did. He
And
did.
that's a
I I
lesson for all of us.
I just kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. And when we finally did get the the news from his oncologist that we've done all we can for you, uh, then we both went home and cried.
Yes.
You know, at
Yes.
that point, he knew that, okay, we've done everything we can, and he was just upset that he would be leaving me alone, and
Mm,
that and that he wanted me to have a good life after he passed.
yeah.
So,
Yes.
and while I was caring for him, while I would wait in waiting rooms and, you know, see other caregivers, that was sort of when I conceived of the caregiver space.
Yes, that is the next, that is the next question. The caregiver space community, which I became aware of several years ago, when the website was up and running, and I would blog for you all, and now I, from time to time, I post on one of the Facebook pages. We'll go into that into in more detail, but what was it that you saw that said, this is needed? This is something I need to do.
Well, I guess about a year after my mother-in-law moved in, I started to feel a little burnt out.
A little burnt out?
A little burnt out, yeah. Like I said, I'm a natural caregiver, and
Mm,
it wasn't burning me out. I
okay, good.
somehow knew naturally how to balance it all. And I went I went to Gilda's Club in Manhattan
Mm,
and thought that that would be a good place for me. What was going on, though, was I had to be at home 24/7, and I could not commit to being at Gilda's Club through, you know, for 3-hour sessions for 3 months. And in all fairness to other people in the group, I declined to do that. So they told me to call the cancer, um, it was the American Cancer Society's
mhm.
site where they would put you in a support group. And they did. While I was in that group, I started seeing husbands passing. It happened, it was not necessarily a group of all women, it just happened to be a group of all women. And husbands would pass, and I would go, "Well, am I next?" Yeah. And, I wanted to keep in touch with these people, but that, I think, was the initial idea, was somehow working out how to have a connection with them after they left the group, because we all still needed support and we all knew each other, and being put into an after caregiving group where you don't know anybody
Mhm.
and you're losing all the support you had really didn't work. So I thought, well, I'll do that. And then it was, well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well do it for everybody. You
Huh.
know, I'm going to do it for 12 women. I might as well just do it for everybody.
Two
That's
questions pop up. Number one, please explain to those who do not know about Gilda's Club what Gilda's Club, who Gilda, and what the club did. And then tell me what year this was that you started the Caregiver Space Community, because I would suspect you're one of the first.
there were some people way before me, but
Oh,
I started. It went up in 2012, a year after Steve died,
mhm.
because it took time to get it all together.
Yeah.
And we didn't have all of the Facebook things available to us that we have now. So the site was far deeper and far more complicated than it is now. Facebook has helped in that regard, and they also help by making the groups private.
Mhm.
Gilda was Gilda Radner, who was the Saturday Night Live, one of the original cast members, and she was married to Gene Wilder, the actor, comedian, best known, I guess, from The Producers and Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
So when Gilda passed, I guess he felt that he wanted to give back to caregivers, and he was in a position to set up, to buy a building. It's like a 3-story townhouse kind of building in Lower Manhattan, the Soho area, and he hired people, professional moderators, social workers, and made it available at no cost
Mhm.
to anyone who needed it. So it was really quite a gift.
I'm assuming it still lives today.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's well funded now. It was always well funded by Gene Wilder, but now there are also all sorts of events that are held that benefit the club.
The club.
Yeah.
So tell me about how the Caregiver Space Community runs. I will tell everyone that June, the third Wednesday in June, whatever that date happens to be, Adrienne will be back
Yeah.
for a sweet spot with Corey Carl. And Corey is one of the administrators of the Caregiver Space Community. And we will delve more deeply into that. But now you move to Facebook. You close the website.
No, there's still a website.
The website is still there.
Oh, yes.
Forgive me. I tried to go on. I couldn't get on. Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty then. That's on me. The main thrust of it, though, or is the Facebook?
Yes, it's much easier for people who are already on Facebook to just
Hop over.
yeah, to one of their groups. Yeah.
And now you say one of the groups. It
Well,
started as a group.
I'm in several different, I mean, on your Facebook page, there are groups that you can join. Like I just joined Bungalow Colonies from the Catskills. That's a group, but not within the caregiver space. Within the caregiver space, there are communities that we've set up that are private. There is one public space, and then there's the community that's private, which is an umbrella community. And then there are things like spousal caregiving, young caregivers, And there are many young caregivers who really do
Yes.
need support.
Yes.
Um, after caregiving, and we're also taking on the problems of people who have been caregivers, have gone through their after caregiving period, and are now facing all the other problems that confront them in life. So
Like you mean
mostly
normal life.
I'm going through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going through it alone, even though I do have someone in my life, it's still going through it alone.
Mhm.
I'm still a widow. That's
Yeah.
where it's at. Um, there there are these different communities that you can apply to join, and Corey, who I could not live without,
Mm.
and knows so much more than I do about all of this. And some of the people who are moderators decide whether or not you should be allowed into the group. Those groups are the private groups. They're strictly confidential.
Mhm.
You don't have to use your own name. I mean, I could go on there, as Apple Green, and that would be my screen name, and anything that I might say would be totally private. And
Mhm.
that's what I always wanted, was for people to have a place that they could come, and if all they wanted to do was bitch, then they could.
They can do that. I've
They
seen
could
some
vent
that start with, "This is a rant, be prepared."
that,
And
and
then
that's better to get it out than to hold that in.
exactly.
Much
Exactly.
better to just let that out.
And
Um,
yeah, as a caregiver myself, I
yes.
didn't know any of this existed, um, other than calling my friends. I had 2 friends. I had many friends, but 2 or 3 of them that I could call and say, bad day," and they come running over. Um, you can't do that with every friend because you don't want to put upon your friends, "Oh, she's calling again." Um, at least that's the feeling that I had, and that'll be another conversation one day, I think, that I'll have with someone. Um, but thank goodness for people like you, Adrienne, who had the foresight to see what we needed. Um, we as caregivers needed. It's interesting that I only found the caregiver space community after I had the well, I'm still caregiving, but after the initial
Yeah.
crazies and after I wrote the book, and now it's a help to me, but now more than anything, I want to be a help to others. Um,
Yeah, me
folks, we're,
too.
we're yes, you are very so much so, so much so. Um, we will go into the caregiver space community in so much more depth on Wednesday, June something, the third Wednesday in June. Folks, help me out here.
I
And
my calendar.
yeah, well, my calendar isn't here. I want you to know that I am not at home and not in my studio. And I am in this little loft area of a Vermont house that I'm inhabiting for a week. And I have only the important things. I have my computer and I have you all and I have Adrienne. Adrienne, also, what I have is Adrienne gave us two recipes. This, I want you to know, is a compote, a fruit compote made with just dried fruit. You pour some water over the top of it, you let it boil, You let it simmer, it creates its own sweet sauce, and I had it over my oatmeal this morning. It's decadent and somewhat healthy.
There's no
What is
sugar. I mean,
other than the natural sugar?
other than the natural sugar that comes from the fruit.
And Adrienne says that this is a recipe that has been handed down through her family for eons.
Yeah.
She also gave us Sylvia's, and I'm assuming Sylvia's your mom,
My
mother-in-law, Tower of Fudge. That recipe I didn't make. That recipe will go on the Facebook page along with the fruit compote when we finish talking today. And I want you to know also, while I'm thinking of this, because next week on Thursday, May 20th, we're going to meet Ashley Voth. Ashley is a young woman who had a stroke.
20th.
The 20th, yes. May 20th.
Is the 20th.
Today is the 20th. Okay, on the 27th will be Ashley Voth. Ashley is a survivor of a stroke when she was very young, and she now works with young stroke survivors. Okay, somebody just Kelly, thank you. June 16th is the sweet spot. Kelly, I appreciate. Pardon?
June 16th.
June 16th is a sweet spot with Adrienne and
Yes,
Corey Carl.
Yes.
And on the 27th of May, next Thursday, we'll meet with Ashley Voth. If you want to get Ashley's recipe in advance, and I know it's going to be remarkable because she and I were discussing how do you make a gluten-free vegan recipe, and she came up with something which is perfect, and I can eat it. Please email me at here's my banner, authorcjgolden@gmail.com. Email me. I will send you the recipe in advance. I'll send you a reminder of the shows, plural, as they come up, because you'll be on my email list. But that's it. I only email once a week, and that is just to let you know what's going on with the Caregivers Bakery. As far as the Caregiver Space Community, you'll find that on Facebook. And what I don't have here, forgive me, Adrienne, your private email, if you wish people to contact you, is
Adrienne at thecaregiverspace.org. No, no spaces. Thecaregiverspace.org.
Got it.
The space does not mean space.
Yes, exactly. Adrienne at thecaregiverspace.org. And there is a space there, but it doesn't belong. That's as quickly as I could type.
That was great.
Thank you. We're going to be seeing a lot of Adrienne, folks, beyond the sweet spot. We in the caregiver community recognize that caregiving is not a piece of cake. So let us help you find the sweet spot. Come back next week. We'll see you all. You'll meet Ashley. In a couple of weeks, you'll see Adrienne again. Any parting words, Adrienne?
It's been a pleasure. It was.
Thank you. It truly was. I'm so glad we met. And we'd met before this, folks, and I knew this would be great. Thank you. Take care.
You
Bye-bye.
too.